Jingle bell rock. Okay, in today's video, we will be talking about stupid shiz we said when we were little.
Or thought.
Jinx! Alright, so, I'm Zosia. If you don't know, which you should.
You should know.
Obviously.
If you've watched enough of our videos.
This might be our first one, so I don't know. I don't know, man.
Third one.
Alright. Who's going first? You can go first. I'm the first and last one.
Okay. When I was little, I thought that if you press the little garage thing, because you know you have that little garage thing on your car, I thought if you pressed it, it opened from anywhere. Like if we were on a road trip and someone accidentally pressed it, I'd be like, you better press it back! Because I thought the garage would just magically open from 200 miles away.
Okay. One thing that I thought when I was little was that if, like, drawing a blank. Okay, anyways, one thing that I thought when I was little, not like little, but like younger than I am now, like maybe 11 or 12, my mom was giving me the talk, and like she was talking about how boys can get like it so that they don't have sperm in them. And I thought that meant that you cut their balls off. So I was like, so their balls are cut off? And she was like, no.
That's not how it works.
No, that works. And I was like, oh. Alright. Your turn.
I used to think... I don't even know what I used to not understand, like, how anything happened.
Okay, another thing I thought when I was little was that if a boy touched you or you touched a boy, you were automatically diseased. Like you had cooties and you were gonna die.
I'm pretty sure most people thought that.
So, no, like to a point of no return. So if a boy touched me, I would run to the nurse and be like, I need you to give me some cootie disease because I don't got time for this. I'm not gonna die today.
I used to not understand how grades work at all. Or how, like...
Why did your sister Snapchat me?
I don't know. Or how, like... I don't know. I guess, like, how high school worked. Like, the grades that you went, like, it goes freshman, sophomore, junior.
Yeah, I never understood that either.
I never understood that. And so someone tried to explain it to me once, and I was like, that just doesn't make sense.
Just like the continents.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay. One thing I also thought when I was little was that high school was all amazing and you always sang and danced, but no.
I used to think that high school was like High School Musical.
Yeah. Thanks, Disney Channel, it's not.
And then reality hit me.
Like a truck.
I also used to think that if I was cute as a kid, I was going to automatically be cute as an adult. That didn't work out.
Obviously.
At least I look better than you do.
Oh. In your dreams. Okay, another thing that I used to think when I was little was that my gymnastic coach or cheerleading coach or whatever was like an Olympian. So every time I was like, the Olympics came on, I would be like, do you remember when you were in the Olympics? But apparently that's not what happens.
That's not how that works. I used to not understand why the Olympics was every 4 years.
Yeah,
but also every 2 years.
I still don't understand that.
Because, like, they'd tell me it was every 4 years, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, 2 years after the Olympics, they'd be like, it's the Olympics again. I was like,
it's only been 2
it
years.
makes sense, but then I figured out it was the Winter and the Summer Olympics.
Does that mean that we have, like, an Olympic every year?
No, every 2 years. We have the winter, then we have the summer, and then 2 years later we have winter, and then 2 years later we have summer again. So from summer to summer, it's 4 years, but then from winter. Does that make sense?
Sure. Let's see. No, it's your turn. No, you just said yours. Another thing I used to think when I was little was that, ooh, I'm popular. Another thing I used to think when I was little was that my little sister would become a magical princess, but she's not. She's a demon.
I used to think that princesses in real life were like the princesses in, like, Disney movies.
Yeah!
So, like, they're not. But I used to think that they just used to walk around in ball gowns.
Alright. Another thing I used to think when I was little was that, nothing, because I didn't have a brain. Just kidding. I thought that, hospitals were only for where babies were being born. So whenever mom was like, we gotta go to the hospital, I was like, why? And she was like, because you gotta go to the doctors. And I was like, I'm not pregnant. I'm not having a baby. I also used to think that babies come from storks.
I used to not understand how gas was pumped. This is kind of a weird one, but like, you know how it's like $3 a gallon? I thought that was like the total price of the gas. I was like, why is it so expensive? Gas, it's only $3. They were like, that's not how it works. I was like, are you sure? I'm pretty sure how this works. Until I found out.
Oh, another thing that I used to think was that when I was little, we didn't celebrate Christmas because, so I haven't celebrated Christmas until like the past 2 years because we were Jehovah's Witnesses because my grandparents were like that. But then we moved away, so we're not like that anymore. So every year during the Christmas time, everyone was like, I'm so excited to get presents. And I was like, why? Like, I don't get presents. Why does... So I used to think that the universe hated me because I didn't get presents.
I used to get really confused around the holidays for a lot of different reasons. But I don't remember any of them. I just remember always being confused.
Story of my life. Okay, another thing I used to think when I was little was that if you were told that you were a good singer, then you were automatically gonna become a national, like a pop star. You're gonna be there. So, like, say myself or my mother or someone got like called a good singer near me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Mom, are we gonna become rich? And then I'm gonna get to live in a house and I'm gonna have a donkey because I wanted a donkey. That's another thing I used to think when I was little. I didn't want a horse. Wanted a donkey.
I used to think that money would just like magically pop in people's bank accounts. I was like, Mom, can we go to Disneyland or can we go do something like super expensive? And she's like, no, we don't have money for that. And I was...
I'm gonna zoom in on that.
Anyway, I was like, how do we not have money for this? Okay, don't you just like magically get money in your bank account? She was like, no.
Another thing I used to think when I was little was that if you were laughing, then a fairy was born. So if you laughed...
I thought that too. From
If you laughed, then a fairy was born. So I decided that I was going to laugh like all the time. So I had a phase where like for 2 weeks, I just laughed all the time. Like constantly. Not at anything particular, I just laughed.
Okay, so you know how, like, when there's, like, a light shining through the window, and, like, there's, like, these little dust things flying through the air, and you can see them? I used to think they were fairies. Oh. Well, they both involve fairies, but yeah. I used to think that they were the fairies, and I was like, Mom, look, there's fairies, and she was like, no, it's not. It's not fairies.
Don't crush my dreams. Another thing I used to think when I was little was that when you were a teenager, you just were, like, the coolest thing ever. And I didn't have an older sibling, so I'm just gonna do things on my own. Money, sexy. Okay, so, like, as I was growing up, I was like, Mom, I can't wait to be a teenager. I'm gonna be so cool. I'm gonna be so, like...
Then you find out being a teenager sucks because you actually have responsibilities.
I've been responsible since day one.
I used to think that, like, you didn't have to do anything until you were an adult. Until, like, you turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't have to worry about your grades. You didn't have to do anything else. And then life hit me.
And life was like, no. Another thing, I used to think when I was a youngin'. When I was a youngin', was that, like... I don't know, man.
I don't know. So my dad was in the military, so I moved around all the time.
Same.
I had friends who didn't move around, I was like, really? Why not? They were like, because we just don't. We've lived here our whole lives. I was like, really? I also used to never understand why people moved if they weren't in the military. So, like, for the longest time, I thought everyone moved, like, every year. And then once I found out that didn't happen, I was like, so people only move if they're in the military. That's great. Then I found that that's not how that works.
Alright, I can't think of anything else, so... Can you?
No.
Right. So now...
Well, subscribe.
Click that
thumbs up button.
Subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to. If you don't, well then that's your problem. And you can leave a comment if you want to, but you don't have to. It's your choice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alright.
Zosia and Willow out. You forgot to do the thing!